I am Dr. Mollie Marti with Resiliency Matters, and today we are speaking with Dylan Tête, a graduate of West Point and founding executive director of Bastion Community of Resilience. I'm thrilled to say Dylan is also Worldmaker's 2021 Trailblazer Honoree. So much to talk about. Welcome, Dylan.
Thank you. Good to be with you, Mollie.
So can we start by you sharing some of the things that you experienced or observed after returning from serving in Iraq?
Yeah, my life is a bit unique in that regard. I redeployed in 2004 and moved to New Orleans 3 months before Hurricane Katrina. So in some respect, I was at the right place at the right time, but I really never had a shot at a normal life. You know, the things that I was grappling with at the time were things like hypervigilance and depression and suicide ideation. I felt completely alone and disconnected. I felt completely out of place. I felt my best when I was working, and as so many of us do, work ourselves as a coping mechanism to cover up or hide a lot of the pain and loss that we're experiencing. So that's just a little taste of what I was going through at the time. My life after Hurricane Katrina completely changed again. And so a lot of the things that the Army trained me to do actually melded very well in the greatest rebuilding effort since the Marshall Plan. And so at my worst, I did want to end my life, but luckily I did get the help I needed and started volunteering at a summer adventure camp for Gold Star kids. And those kids taught me a new expression of courage, which is the courage to live on. And that was really the beginning of about a 10-year journey to come all the way home.
And we are so very, very, very grateful you are here with us. You know, you hold a very special place in my heart. And your comment about, you had no shot at a normal life, I would say, is there such a thing? Or if there is, I think it's overrated.
Amen.
So you started looking for solutions and you came across the work of Dr. Brenda Ehart, a friend in common. And I encourage our viewers to watch Brenda's show after she wrote a brilliant book called Neighbors. It's at worldmakerinternational.org. But what really resonated with you about Brenda's model of intentional neighboring?
Yeah, so, fast forward a few years and my buddies were coming home with this thing called traumatic brain injury. I had no idea what it was. I got very curious about it and went to the Pentagon. I went to Walter Reed and the Center for the Intrepid in San Antonio. I went to the hub of the VA's Polytrauma Network. And what everyone described to me, the doctors, the warriors themselves, their caregivers and loved ones, that there wasn't just a gap in the continuum of care, there was a cliff. And once these warriors were discharged from the hospital, the communities they were moving back to were not equipped to sustain them, to make them viable, to keep them moving forward. I went to a group home that the VA was funding. I thought maybe this could be a solution. It actually made me angry when I walked inside. It's not a place I wanted to live. I met a young warrior in his 20s who was so over-medicated, he was drooling out the side of his mouth on a couch with no one around him. And I just thought we could do better than this. I got very lucky. As you said, I stumbled on this blueprint that Brenda pioneered for foster youth and adoptive families, and we began to adapt it. for a military demographic. And I have to say, it has worked very, very well. It took me a little while to convince enough people that this idea could work, but we purchased 5 acres, started building homes. Today, there are 58 households who call Bastion home. We have a clubhouse, and we're doing lots of wonderful programming, and now on the threshold to build 14,000 square foot commercial wellness center that will open to the public and share with them what we're learning about trauma and resilience, more importantly, and how community is central, is pivotal, is the linchpin in the ongoing recovery and reintegration for warriors. But I would say anyone who has experienced trauma needs a community. Keep them grounded, keep them moving forward.
So talk a little bit about the service component. So you have this intentional neighboring, really mandatory service as part of that community. Help our viewers just understand a little more context.
Well, actually, so service has evolved. That idea of it has evolved since we started. There is an ethos. It is partly the warrior's ethos, will not leave anyone behind. And so beginning with this sort of expectation of service, we began to uncover a lot of the complexity of our warriors and their families, that actually some of it was not military connected. It was linked to poverty, adverse childhood experiences, growing up Black in the South. And so the idea of service began to evolve. And I think if you were to ask our people today, there's a lot more empowering going on across the board. Now, our professional staff, which is composed of occupational therapists, social workers, and certified brain injury specialists, they're one of their primary functions is integrating neighbors into the care plan. And so it's a process of kind of customizing each household's approach to their own health and healing, but doing it in partnership with their next door neighbors. And so, we have retired elders who in fact have even sold their homes to live at Bastion and give that kind of instrumental support and peer support that some of our warriors need. If you think about traumatic brain injury, in the most severe cases, these are folks who need skilled care. These are folks who need help with their activities of daily living that you and I take for granted. And it really does take a village, not to be cliche, but when you have that kind of support built in next door, it makes all the difference. And so, we're not tracking everyone's service hours anymore because the expectation of service, I think, was so well ingrained in the beginning, and through the orientation and indoctrination of residents as they flow in, we are all kind of growing together. And it's really kind of amazing to watch how even when our elders need support, our warriors are there to help them. And let's not forget, we have between 30 and 40 children who live at Bastion as well, who are playing themselves pivotal roles in the recovery, reintegration of our warriors, in the quality of life of our elders. Everyone's benefiting. It's just beautiful.
It is beautiful and brilliant. It's true culture change is what you're describing.
Yes, yes.
So you were surprised I still held on to this. You gifted me this way back when we first met, but it's your user guide to Bastion. And I want to read a bit from it as we move into kind of the mind-body discussion. But it says military instruction is reinforced with a type of physicality that can sometimes border the psychotic. We are trained to ignore our bodies for survival and ranger through it is a motto we embody long into our post-military lives. It is no wonder that so many veterans find it difficult to speak about painful emotions. We have effectively disconnected ourselves from the true pain we feel in our bodies due to trauma, loss, broken relationships, or moral injury. And the same is true for feeling joy, peace, or love. Let us also remember that veterans do not own the monopoly on pain and epic struggle. Everyone experiences trauma at some point in life. There's a lot to unpack there.
Yes.
Where do you want to take this?
Well, on my journey to wholeness, I, again, stumbled on a model for healing in community. And this is a model that the Center for Mind-Body Medicine has used all over the world for the last 30 years. We're using it at Bastion. I've taken it to Ukraine to heal with veterans from the war in the Donbass. But what I have seen in every location I've gone to where I've used this model, very personal transformations occurring. And in real time. I mean, you can see it happening before your very eyes. I've experienced this type of healing coming back from Iraq. I think there was some type of spiritual death, if you will, and it has taken the better of 10 years to effectively turn this body back on that I had effectively turned off and connect my mind with my body, with my spirit once again, and recruiting the whole body to heal is something that, well, it is. I said it before, it's transformative. And so, and when you do it in community, the effects and the benefits of that transformation tend to persist a lot longer than they would in a one-on-one type of professional client relationship.
I think you'll appreciate this, Dylan. I was listening to an Arabic scholar over the weekend, and he was pointing out in various languages, they don't have, when you talk about mind-body connection, they don't have a word for body. Their only word for body is meaning corpse. Like the body is simply a container. And then we, in Western civilization, but you can track it back to certain philosophers and philosophies, we've created this distinction. And we act like we need to put this mind, body, spirit, emotions back together when it was whole all along. And we've created these constructs that create separations. But have you ever heard that?
No, that's fascinating.
It was really profound. I'll share the source with you.
Yeah.
All right, viewers, more on post-traumatic growth and resilience. Stay tuned.
Today, more than ever, you need fast, reliable internet. At Mediacom, we want you to know you can count on us. Our fiber-powered 100% gigabit technology network was built for the future. We have enormous capacity and power, and 99.99% network reliability. So even though these are uncertain times, we're prepared, and you can be certain we'll keep your world connected.
Welcome back to Resiliency Matters. Today we're speaking with Dylan Tête. And Dylan, I was thinking as I was thinking about you and prepping the show that I have filmed over 50 episodes, and I've never talked to a guest about Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey, although I know many of them are well-versed in it. So I've been saving this for you, I guess, because I know that this is part of your structure. Share with viewers a bit about the hero's journey.
Yeah. Well, Joseph Campbell, as you know, really kind of framed this notion that our lives follow these stories, and these stories have been told throughout, civilization. The story of the one who feels a tug, a calling, separates himself, herself, conducts a test, an initiation, and then comes home. And oftentimes that is the story that is not told so much, is that return. But in that process, and this is true for me, when you go out, right, as I did when I joined the military and went to Iraq, that knight who goes on his quest to slay the dragon finally confronts the dragon, and as he is plunging his sword into the dragon's chest, looks one more time into his eyes and sees only the reflection of himself. And this idea that the enemy is not some external threat, but is actually something in us all. And so what do you gain from that kind of awareness? What do you gain from that kind of insight? I think it could be different for each person, but there is a promise. There is, with that knowledge comes wisdom, and that wisdom is not to be bottled up. It is to be shared for the good of humanity. And I think for many warriors who are returning home, they are discovering that potential, that answer for themselves. They are recognizing that they're not alone, but actually we are all connected, all of us, all around the world. I felt that connection on the front line in the Donbass, standing in a mortar crater where you could still smell the gunpowder because the impact was so fresh. And I knew immediately that these men and women who were serving on the front line, I recognized them. They were me. And if I could see in the binoculars the insurgents, the Russian insurgents and soldiers on the other side of that line, I think I would recognize them too. I think a lot of what we learned in that trip was that the many soldiers in Russia who were called and activated to fight in the Donbass were completely lied to. They were given misinformation and told that this was their great cause, their next they had to save these Ukrainians for some made up reasons. And anyway, I'm going on a tangent, but we're all connected. That's the bottom line. And I think that is probably the one thing that I have received the most in my own hero's journey, because it's allowed me to work with other vulnerable groups, with people who don't look like me, talk like me, who don't share the same values as me. And I'm talking about people we call Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And I serve them too.
It's really, that's a beautiful emphasis on that coming home part of that. So something else I've never done, and shift the pace a little bit, but I'd like to do what we can call a fire round, right? I'm just going to give you a few statements, and you can agree, disagree, tell a bit of a story, but I think these are important pieces to kind of draw out here. So number one, When you recognize a problem, become part of the solution.
Am I saying true or false?
Does that bring up anything? Or you can just say yes, duh, move on, because it's such a part of who you are.
Yeah, I have to say, whose solution? I've learned that my good ideas and my own sense of duty, in fact, have gotten in the way of things. And so I am finding myself to be more collaborative. I'm asking a lot more questions. I am not going in with any preconceived notions, and I'm maintaining my humility, because I think the answers are already out there and they're staring us at the face, but we don't give people a chance or it's the difference, Molly, I think, between helping a veteran and healing with a veteran.
So when you recognize a problem, listen and keep an open mind.
Yes.
Okay. Our bodies are naturally equipped for self-healing.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. 100% agree.
It is possible to come back from devastating experiences stronger than ever.
Yes, yes. To the point, though, I think there is, we're experiencing it down here in South Louisiana, where we're just getting battered, storm after storm after storm. And so you can resilience yourself to death, I think, in some cases. And so there are a lot of people down here, for example, who are really questioning whether they want to be here anymore.
And I personally would say you could grit yourself to death, but you can't resilience yourself to death, because resilience includes that community around you in a Worldmaker world.
Yes, yes, yes. The military model does not include community. So yes, that we're included.
I want to bring this forth before our time runs out. You actually played a pivotal role in our name Worldmaker. So we were at an international resilience research symposium, and you were talking about the term world making in the context of military transitioning back to civilian life. And they need to deal with the impacts of trauma and create anew these lives of meaning and purpose, similar to your journey. And the room just lit up, not only about how we're tasked as individuals to create these lives, but that broader question of what are we being called collectively to do to create a world worthy of our children. There are a lot of people in transition right now through a global pandemic. What have you learned about the process of world making that might help them along their process?
COVID has taught me a lot. At the very onset of it, we did a hard pivot. Operationally, we turned all of our staff outward facing and began to help our neighborhood across the street, our friends in the city. And in fact, we helped over 200 people across 4 countries in the 6 months that we implemented a telehealth program. COVID in New Orleans has revealed a lot of disparities, and in particular around health. It has hit the African-American community very hard here. And why is that? You begin to peel that back. This is a journey I did not expect when I started Bastion, but I'm happy to be walking this path with my friends in that community. And one thing we're learning is just how food insecure people are. And not only that, but the food they're intaking is killing them. And so we started a pilot food program with the support of the Bob Woodruff Foundation. We are making meals together. We are delivering meals We are educating people on nutrition. And it's not just warriors and families. We're doing this with our friends and neighbors in the immediate neighborhood. That is a small contribution that we're making. I hope to make this program sustainable. I want to create a food revolution. I'm walking in this new understanding that food is medicine. The gut is the second brain. And that is, possibly to your question, just one example of how we're making a world that is more inclusive and more equitable for the Black and Brown community. Not intended as 10 years ago when I set out on this journey, but I'm happy to be part of it now.
Well, and I think that's the perfect segue, Dylan, into why you are the honoree for our inaugural Trailblazer Award. So I want to read, the Trailblazer Award is presented to a Worldmaker partner for their innovation and outstanding service to the human resilience field, resulting in new pathways for many. And so you broke ground in Bastion, 2017?
2016.
2016. Okay, so 5 years in, and you've achieved a structure that is so much greater than the sum of its parts, and giving examples as we go through our conversation today. So I know this of you. You are a trailblazer. You are committed to service. What's next?
Yeah.
Just a snippet of what you know, even if it's just a curiosity or a question of what might be.
Yes, thank you for asking that question. I will take a sabbatical and rest my brain. I want to be able to imagine what is possible. If it's scaling more bastions, if it's moving beyond the veteran space and co-creating a world that we can all share and prosper in, that sounds like a good use of my time. And I'm very honored to receive this award, Mollie. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I tried hard to give it to you. We were so engrossed in this conversation, and then Dylan goes, "Wait, you're giving me an award?" And I believe you said, "If I can come hang out with cool people, sure, I'm in."
That's right.
All roads, Dylan, with you lead back to community, and that's what I want to leave our viewers with today. That's where the answers are, the wisdom of community.
Yes, yes. Let us restore the role of community in our frontal lobe. Let's get that entrenched in our brain again.
Well, thank you for your help doing so. And thank you, viewers, for joining us on Resiliency Matters on Mediacom NC22, your local programming leader.